Discover the truth in His Word.
A man living in the United States asked his insurance company to pay for injuries he sustained when shocked by a high-power electric line. The insurance company refused to pay on the grounds that the accident was, in legal terms, an act of God. The man decided that if indeed it were an act of God, he would file suit against God and Company, including 55 Christian churches in his city. During the trial, one minister spoke out saying, "I believe the expression an act of God is wrongly used. God was not responsible for the accident. It should be called an act of the devil." According to the Bible, the clergyman was absolutely correct. This was not an act of God, but still God gets the blame. There is truth in placing the blame on the devil, who is basically responsible for all of the accidents and problems that confront mankind. As you see what is happening in the world around you, you soon become aware of an evil force in this old world. Everywhere you look, you see evidence of terrible tragedies taking place, everywhere, every day. Who is responsible for all of the tragedies, sorrow, and suffering in this world? Many people blame God for the difficulties they experience. How often you hear them ask the question, "Why did God do this to me?" Let's take a look at what the Bible has to say about the great battle that is going on between the forces of right and wrong, happiness and sorrow, sickness and health. You may ask, if God does not bring all of this trouble and grief into the world, who is really responsible for all the tragedies we daily witness? The Bible puts the finger on the guilty party. Jesus told a story about a farmer who planted good seed in his field, but when the plants came up, there were noxious weeds in the field. The disciples, bless them, asked the question that we have wondered about. "Lord, if the farmer planted good seed, where did the weeds come from?" And Jesus answers, "He who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seeds are the sons of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the wicked one. The enemy who sowed them is the devil." Matthew 13:37-39. You see, while God is trying to be loving and kind to everyone, there is another power at work in this world bringing disaster, tragedy, death, and sickness into the lives of God's children. The last book of the Bible, Revelation, tells us how it all began, so we might have the real truth about what happened in heaven that has caused so much trouble on planet Earth. We will discover the origin of evil. It may surprise you, but there was once war in heaven. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, he was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Revelation 12:7-9. Now, notice how this dragon, or the devil, is introduced in Revelation 12:3-4. "And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth." Evidently 1/3 of the angels of heaven followed this deceiver in his rebellion against God. But let's find out more about this fallen angel called Lucifer. In the Old Testament he is described as the king of Tyre, and it says this about him. "Thus says the Lord God, you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. You were the anointed cherub who covers. You were in the holy mountain of God. You walked in the midst of fiery stones." Ezekiel 28:12-14. Lucifer was a beautiful angel, created perfect in all his ways. He was the angel who stood next to God as a covering cherub. Lucifer held an exalted position in heaven. On either side of the mercy seat or throne of God were 2 angels, one on the right and one on the left. One of these was Lucifer, who later made a devil out of himself. We don't know why he did this. Satan was not content being next to God. he wanted to be God. Something happened to Lucifer and his close relationship with God. God said of him, "You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor." Ezekiel 28:15 and 17. This beautiful, exalted angel became lost on an ego trip. He coveted the glory and homage due God alone. He was power-hungry. In fact, this created angel had the boldness to challenge his Creator for the rulership of the universe. Listen carefully. "How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground! For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High." Isaiah 14:12-14. As these arrogant words spilled forth from Lucifer's lips, the perfect love and harmony of heaven was shattered into a million selfish pieces. It wasn't long before Lucifer began to spread the spirit of discontent among the other angels. Slowly but surely, he undermined God's love and justice. Like a rotten apple in a box, his rebellion spread to other angels in heaven. Perhaps you're wondering why God didn't destroy Satan at that time. Well, God could have eliminated Lucifer and the angels who joined his revolution in one blinding flash. But had he done so, all his creatures would have served him out of fear. They would obey and follow him for the same reason the Germans followed Hitler during World War II. God is a God of love. He can only be happy in a love relationship with his creatures where they worship him because they love and trust him. Satan had challenged God's laws and justice, but God did not place these laws in force to show who was boss. He made them to protect his creatures, to ensure their peace and happiness. His laws are like stoplights and speed limit signs, all planned for our safety and well-being. But this most honored of all the angels thought he could run the universe better than God his Creator. Satan, the adversary of God, made a devil out of himself. God gives everyone the power of choice to obey or not to obey. Out of fairness and love, God has allowed Satan to demonstrate to the universe the way he would run the world. Satan has been allowed to demonstrate the true character of sin. We cannot fully understand how this all happened, when God was so good and loving to all of his angels and those whom he had created. It is a mystery that only God in eternity will fully explain. The battle begun in heaven isn't over. It has just changed places. Earth became the stage upon which the great controversy between good and evil would be dramatized, where Satan would demonstrate his kind of government and how he would run the world. But why Earth? Why did our planet have to become a spectacle to the world, both to angels and to men? 1 Corinthians 4:9. The earth had just come from the hand of the Creator, in all its splendor and perfection, beautiful beyond description. Evidently Satan thought so too, for he saw this world as a prize worth capturing. No doubt Satan didn't attempt to invade and control an established planet with millions of loyal, God-loving inhabitants. Rather, he would attempt to seize a planet of fragile beauty, a newborn world. Although Adam and Eve, the father and mother of the human race, were created perfect, they were not placed beyond the possibility of wrongdoing. They were free to choose to love and follow God or to ignore his instructions. But their loyalty would be tested, and that test would focus on a single tree. God warned, "Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die." Genesis 2:16 and 17. That must have seemed a reasonable request. They must have felt quite secure. But man is most vulnerable when he is caught completely off guard because he feels secure.